But you never know that you could. And when you feel that way, ain't it good, good dancing in the red and gold. Dancing in the red and gold.
What's up, Faithful? Welcome to the 49er Faithful UK Live. As always, I'm your host, Paul Hope, and joining me once again is everybody's favourite president, Lee Gowland.
Now then, Paul, how are you doing?
I am feeling a lot better, Lee, after our group therapy session. How are you feeling, mate?
I'm getting there, slowly, but I'm getting there. Yeah, I had a little bit of luck last night. I think I sent you the message about midnight. So I happened to catch Ty Olsen and Mariah Faithfully on last night towards midnight and after, and they were doing a giveaway of some cards, and my name popped out 3 times. So I was over the moon with that. That kind of brightened my week up a little bit.
Yeah. I was just getting ready to lock up for the night, and I saw the message. So it's quite funny because on the topic of cards, obviously last week we were joined by Jordan Spector and the Hall of Fame, Mr. 378 Patrick Willis. So for those people tuning in, we do have some special guests for you tonight. Now, if you are new to the show, please do drop a like and a subscribe. Tell all your friends about it. The show tonight, we won't be talking about Sunday's game. We've done the group therapy session. The podcast is out, so please do go and download that. That game is in the books. We've put it to bed. Now, as Lee said a couple of weeks ago... but as you said a couple of weeks ago, moving forward in season, on a Wednesday, we want the live show to be topic-based. So we had a chat, and we thought, after Patrick Willis, where could we go? And me and you put our heads together, and we've got the legend, the one, the only, Colin here is in the house.
Hello,
What's
everyone.
up, Colin?
Hey, Colin.
Pretty good, mate. I'm really, really happy to join you both.
Yeah, it's a
It's
pleasure
great to have you on
you.
the show, mate. I've got to say, your audio sounds perfect.
Is it?
It is.
Oh,
I know
right.
that's a
Good.
strange thing to say, but your audio does actually sound really good.
Yeah. Makes a change.
Well, Lee is the technical genius behind the show, so if he is telling you that your audio is good, Colin. Now, all jokes aside, you've attended a couple of watch parties, you've been a big part of the group. Your history as a 49ers fan is long and storied, and I remember you telling me and Connor Ryan at your first meet up in Leeds, and I was blown away. And you've mentioned to both me and Lee a couple of times now that you would like to come on the show and maybe share your story. So we were going to do a call-in show tonight, weren't we, Lee? But we decided to scrap that idea and get yourself and another guest who was waiting in the back room. But we wanted to give you some airtime first, Colin. So where do we start with you, Colin? Where does your journey with the 49ers begin, buddy?
I mean, as you guys know, but obviously to tell everyone else, it was really weird how I got into American football. In 1977, I had a member of our family, but long distance away. I think it was my dad's second cousin. They came over. They live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And my family, not myself, but my family were all West Ham season ticket holders. And they took them to see a game, which I'm not 100% sure, but I'm sure it was Tottenham or Arsenal. I can't remember now. It was too long ago. And needless to say, West Ham lost. And my second cousin basically turned around and said, it's the first time I've ever seen a soccer match. Really enjoyed that. Perhaps you could send me details on the team that won. And I went, you can't ask me to do that. To bring stuff into the house that's like the total opposite of West Ham is like sacrilege. But he wanted the information, so I said I'd send it to him. And then literally the last day that they were with us, he showed me a game, which, if I remember correctly, was from September 1977. And it was a Pittsburgh Steelers home game, I believe. And it was against the 49ers. And I'd never seen much of it. It was an 8mm camera system that they had, and they showed about maybe 3 or 4 minutes of a game, which was up on the wall. It was really horrible and blurry, but I'd never seen American football at that time, and I just thought, wow, this looks a really interesting game. So I just said, can you send me details on that team? And he went, what, the Pittsburgh Steelers? I went, no, you went for the other team, so I'll go for who was it? And he said, oh, the 49ers. He said, they're rubbish though. I said, I don't care, that's who I'm going to follow. And to this day, he still sends me stuff about the 49ers, although now obviously most stuff I know I actually can tell him now. But yeah, it's that's how I got into it. I didn't really start following it majorly until he started writing to me in 1979 after our draft. That was when I'd say he gave me the most information, and he actually wrote about 5 or 6 pages on our draft. And I'll never forget, he actually had more confidence in a receiver we drafted in the 10th round, which of course was Dwight Clark. And he said, but you did get a quarterback in the 3rd round from Notre Dame. He said he was a good college player, but I can't see him ever amounting to much in the NFL. And of course, that turned out to be Joe Montana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good draft, that one.
It was. And it's really from that point onwards that I sort of more followed it. But of course, then once we actually got it on Channel 4, it's still frustrating, but we were behind. But the fact that most of our games, I didn't normally get a report from my cousin for about once every month. So to suddenly be only a week behind was a real result. And then, of course, once we started getting the Super Bowls live, it was even better.
Yeah, so like I said, Lee, we wanted to get Colin on because I know obviously you've been a fan for a long time. A bit random, Colin, but obviously the 49er Faithful UK. Where did that begin for you? So did you find us on social media? Was it just kind of word of mouth? Where did you find the group?
I think initially it was just I see something on Facebook, and from that I then asked to join the group, and I can't remember how long ago that was now. I think maybe 2017 I've been a member of the group, something like that. And obviously then I heard about the meetups, and I was always tempted to go, but I was on my own, and I'm thinking, I don't know, I'm never good initially in a social situation when I'm on my own. But finally I picked up the courage from basically chatting with you guys via Facebook, etc., about going. And so, yeah, I know it was supposed to be the first ever 49ers official meetup. Obviously, it got cancelled, but you guys still went ahead when the Queen died. And obviously, I met so many people. We obviously used two guys. And it's just been so easy to make friends in the group that I would now say are lifetime friends. There's too many to name, to be honest, but obviously Jay's definitely one up there. But Neil, Ruth, Dave from Norwich as well. But it's like every time you go to a meetup, you make new friends. I mean, it's just endless now. And I can't imagine voluntary I would ever miss one now. I think I'd even go into severe debt to try and get to one.
Well, we'd urge you not to do that.
Yeah, on that, at that topic at the moment. However, the reason we've wanted to get yourself on, and tonight's other special guest who was in the back room itching to join, is there's been a lot of talk around the group of new members. Again, the coverage of the watch party in London was fantastic. The 49ers have shared a lot. We were just chatting off air. Frank Gore has shared a tweet about the watch party. And I'm seeing people say, Lee, I wish I'd gone. It looks fantastic. What shall I do about the next one? And like you said, Colin, me and you have both been in the same boat. 2018, I got off the train in Manchester thinking, what was I doing? And today, me and Tracy have been in Manchester, and I walked past the hotel that I stayed in, and I was like, there's the bar that I first walked into. And Lee Gowland walked over to me, introduction as if we were lifelong friends. Martin Hughes, Andy Hodgson. And like you said, once I'd beaten my first one, there was no way that I was missing anymore. And we just want to get that message out there. But there's another person, Lee, but I'm going to keep him waiting. Just keep him waiting a bit longer.
Interestingly, the other person that we've got hiding in the shadows there, and who, thank God, is now fully clothed, because I was tempted to bring him on while he was changing, but I wouldn't do that to him. Both this guest and Colin joined the group in the same year. So you both joined in 2019. Colin joined on the 30th of January 2019, and the next guest joined on the 27th of October 2019, which is interesting because of the first time we met him and the time frame between that. Yeah. So would you like to introduce our next guest?
I would say that tonight's special guest needs no introduction. If you've been to a meet-up, you've seen this man's infectious smile, you've seen his bear hugs, you've seen his mohawk. It is, of course, Mr. Positive, Captain Positivity, Jay Peplow is in the house, baby.
Evening, guys.
Welcome, Jay.
I can't believe you saw me getting changed. Well, I can.
Yeah, there's this little thing called a camera.
So it was hard not to see
it. The back office, I thought I wasn't being filmed. Evening, Colin.
So yeah, Bebop, Frank the Tank was there in London. James has put that he joined the group in 2014. He found out about the group after the 49ers Jags game at Wembley, and he attended his first meetup in 2015. So obviously there's been a lot of negativity flying around after Sunday's difficult defeat, and we wanted to kind of bring the positive vibes back, and that's why we've got both Colin and Jay. So over to you, Lee. Do you have any questions for either of these two guys, or are we going to open it up to the chat? What do you reckon?
Well, so I've got questions for them both, but I think we'll start off with Jay, and we'll go to the same question that you gave Colin. How did you find out about the 49er Faithful? What was your journey like from the moment you found out to today?
In regards to the group, I've been a Niners fan since the mid '80s. I was 6 years old and watched it on a crappy 14-inch black and white dial tune TV in my grandparents' bedroom. But I was on a lot of stateside 49ers groups before 2019, and there was a toxicity there that just didn't wash with me. The 49ers are like a fourth child to me. And when anybody ever talks bad of them, it just riles me up and I don't like it. And just scanning through Facebook, as everybody does, and found the group. And ever since then, it's just been, I've disappeared. Have I got audio? Oh, there we go. We're back.
Yeah, we can hear you. We just couldn't see you.
That
might have been handy about 5 minutes ago when you were getting changed.
My camera seems to have gone doolally. Or am I still there?
Still here. Yeah, we can still hear.
I found the group 2019, like we said, same as Cole. And ever since then, it's just been a homecoming of family and friends whenever there's a meetup. It's just a vibe, to use a modern day term, that you will not get in any other group.
So can you remember what happened 6 weeks after you joined the group? Do you want to tell that story?
6 weeks. No, go on.
So this is 2019.
So what happened in 2019, Jay?
You joined 27th of October 2019.
Oh, of course, Super Bowl.
No.
Oh, no, 6 weeks after.
So, a place in Scotland. There's the clue.
Oh, first meet-up.
Yeah.
Edinburgh.
Topic of tonight's show, the 49er Faithful community in your first watch party.
Was it really only 6 weeks?
Yeah, it was 6 weeks after you joined the group.
Yes, Martin, you. But why is that journey special, Jay? Because I know what Lee's alluding to. So you joined the group on Facebook. A few weeks later, there's a watch party, a meet-up announced in Edinburgh. Now, most people travel to these things on their own. They jump on a train, they maybe drive up. But talk us through your journey, because I think this is what Lee really wants to know.
The car full of strangers.
The gathering of strangers.
The gathering of strangers.
That was even a thing.
Apt.
It was. I live in South Wales, and I put a Facebook post out once the meetup was announced in Edinburgh to see if there was anybody on the M4 corridor, the M5 corridor, or pretty much anywhere within the UK that wanted to join me up to Edinburgh, and I had 3 responses. One from the legend that is Gareth Ellis, that we all know from the pod and the other live shows. Never met him before. I met him at Abergavenny train station. I think around about 6:30 in the morning. Never met the guy in my life. Just a couple of Facebook messages. And then there was a couple of guys, Jay and Jordan Reynolds, who were in the group, who live in Gloucester. And we basically just all piled in to, yes, I know, babe, thank you. My camera's frozen. Brilliant. Thank you. Piled into a car, picked him up from Gloucester, and then I think it was about 3.5, 4 hours later, landed in Edinburgh. And within about an hour of being in Edinburgh, I think my friend circle got extremely tighter, but extremely bigger at the same time. And as Colin said earlier, it's lifelong friends. It's a family that you can turn to day in, day out, nighttime, daytime, whenever, and there'll always be somebody there for you.
Yeah, definitely. It was I was going to say it was a memorable night in Edinburgh. Obviously, I can't remember half of it. If
I
I'm
can
honest.
still taste the fireballs.
I know it was a good night. Yeah, I know it was a good night. And since that night, Neil Watson's wife has never ever forgiven me for introducing Neil to Fireball. And to be honest, it wasn't actually Fireball; it was Tennessee Fire, because they didn't have Fireball in. But we went hard. We went hard from the first quarter of the game all the way through till 4:00 in the morning, when they were getting a little bit annoyed with us, asking us to leave time again. But yeah, sketchy memories. But it was a great weekend.
So Mark has joined here, Lee. So he echo what he says. Put a comment there saying that he met Jay at the recent watch party, and he just wants to say thank you for being so welcoming. He was absolutely bricking it, being on his own. And I think that's the theme of why you wanted Jay to introduce his story. So to be fair, Colin, Edinburgh was the legendary night that we talked about on the pod. Everybody wanted to kind of come to the next one. And for me, Lee, they've got bigger and bigger since then.
Yes.
Because like you said, that camaraderie, it helped that game was awesome. 48-46. It was the last second field goal. It was the George Kittle jumping all over each other. I only know about these things, Colin, because we do a podcast night to watch the game back. Because as Lee said, my memories of that night in Edinburgh, the journey home.
Oh, it was rough.
Yeah, it was rough.
Yeah.
But Tracy encountered the group that night, Lee, and she saw why it means a lot to myself. We've talked on this show about it's okay to be not okay. We've talked about people struggling. We all went through lockdown. We all went through COVID. And as you touched upon it there, Jay, it isn't just football. Colin, you recently drove up to meet me and Lee. We'll go out for Sunday lunch. We all share messages with each other. If anybody needs to chat to someone, you've got our group. And that's what I'm proud of, Lee. I just wanted to get that out there before you ask some more questions.
I mean, that's what we've tried to strive to do. Put people in a position where they can make friends, make lifelong friends. Because, like you've said time and time again on different podcasts, 10 years ago, we were all sat at home watching it by ourselves. We didn't have anybody else to actually enjoy the game with. And now we've got the game day thread. People Zoom call each other during games. We've got meetups. We've got official watch parties. We've got groups going out to Levi's. All of that is what success looked like to me when I eventually took over the reins by myself back in 2015. That's the type of thing that I wanted to try and promote, because when you make that bond with somebody in a group like this, you can then take that next step and actually go out and watch a game with them, because then you can share the expense of the hotels, and it makes it easier on both of you. It could be 2 of you, it could be 3 of you. But that's the type of thing I've always tried to promote within the group, because I think that brings value to everybody who engages.
I'm back.
You are back.
There we go.
Now,
So I was just about to say, I've got a question for Colin as well. and I don't know how long this is going to take for Colin to answer, but I think it's going to be an interesting one. So obviously, I've named tonight's show from the UK to Sacramento.
Yeah.
Now, do you want to tell us all about your adventures in Sacramento?
Well, it started in Fresno 5 years earlier. In 1990, I went out to America with some friends, and we was going out for a 6-week holiday, and we were going to do some hiking as well. And because we were going to be sort of based around the Fresno area, I wrote to I wrote to Fresno State University. And although they weren't really that interested, they passed on my information to Fresno City College. And from that, I got friends with a guy called John Volek and Bob Shook. And they were the head coach and assistant head coach at Fresno City College. And I became really good friends with them. And when we were over there, they asked me to come and see them. So I actually went and see a couple of their games, and I actually had field passes, which was really, really good and different, because obviously, although I was involved in coaching in the UK, it was so different to be, even though it was city college level, which is long way below NCAA, it's still a much higher level than what we were playing in the UK. And because I became really good friends with these guys and kept in touch with them, they then eventually got an opportunity to coach Sacramento State University. And because I was still coaching, and I was then defensive backs coach and special teams coordinator for the Redbridge Fire, they asked me if I wanted to go out to the States to do a scholarship program during the football season. Which obviously I was absolutely over the moon to try and do. I managed to get a sabbatical from work. So I went out there and done a whole year's course on defensive backs coaching as part of the staff during football season. So I was only out there for just over 3 months. But I absolutely loved it. We didn't have a particularly good season. If I remember correctly, we were 4-6-1. But the experience was just amazing. But what did frighten me was our very first home game. I didn't realise how big the stadium was at Hornet Stadium. I mean, I did hear before I went out there that when the World League of American Football was going on, that the Sacramento Surge played at this stadium. But again, I didn't really take any notice of it. I mean, I know the London Monarchs played at Wembley, but, you know, a lot of them tickets were given away. But yeah, when I went to Sacramento, I was stunned at how big the stadium was. And yeah, they introduced me to the crowd, and it was like, oh my God, I'm embarrassed now. And I've never been, I think I was as red as your 2 shirts.
Yeah, I mean, that must have been some experience to do that, especially
it was amazing. Yeah.
To be fair, Lee, I'm glad you asked Colin that question, because I remember going over to Colin in Leeds and introducing myself. And Colin was like, Paul, I listen to the podcasts, I know who you are. And then he proceeded to tell me about his experience and knowledge of the game, Lee. Now, I sometimes fear I'm the 4th man on the pod. I've got you, I've got Gareth, I've got Nadji. And then I met Colin. And I think me and Connor Ryan were like, oh my God. And then the next meet up, you brought some stuff to show me, if you remember rightly, Colin.
Yeah.
Let's say some stuff, Lee. He brought this duffel bag and opened it up, and he had match day programs, he had photographs. And I was like, wow, like, it just goes to show the passion for American football isn't just recent in England. I think when we talk to our American counterparts and they ask about the game growing in the UK, you reference someone like Colin, who has been watching the game since the 70s. And I dare say, Colin, you know a lot more about football than I do. So when you listen to our podcasts, the pressure's definitely on, thinking, oh God, I hope I haven't got that wrong.
I mean, but to be honest, I would say, as much as I love offense, I mean, who doesn't want to watch loving offense? But defense is where I learn everything. I mean, it's like, even at one stage, I mean, you know, I've had an up and down journey in terms of my weight. But at one stage, I was coaching and I was still 25 stone. And it used to be funny in January when all the new recruits would come along to try out for the team. And I used to hear the comments, he's the DB coach. And I said, yeah, that's funny, isn't it? And I used to go and play safety. And then I used to say to the new guys, okay, let's see, we'll be playing zone. The corner will bump you probably. You try and catch a deep pass on me. And quite often they would actually like say to the guy, they'd try and do run routes that should completely annihilate me. But by then, and mainly I would say due to Sacramento, I'd learned so much how to read the game from the back that my peripheral vision is just incredible, and it still is to this day. Quite often when I'm with my wife, I'll say to her, "Did you see that?" And she'll go, "What?" She said, "Yeah, can you see that?" She said, "It's sideways on." I said, "Peripheral vision. I've just got used to picking things up." And so we used to do these games, or like these routes with these guys, and the amount of times that I would pick passes off, and they're going, "How can someone your size cover me?" And I went, "Because I'm looking at the quarterback and I'm looking at what you're doing the whole time. I know I'm not very quick, but I am quick on a very short distance." I said, "It's even someone my size." Because I tried to play as long as I could, but I had a bad injury, which is why I got into coaching. But I've still got that initial burst of speed, and that's all you need sometimes. And that's what a good safety can do.
Yeah, it is interesting because, as you know, Colin, I've started coaching the under-14 flag football team, and the last 2 weeks I've been thrust into the defensive coordinator position. And like you said there, I'm normally an offensive player, but coaching them up last 2 weeks, it's been quite rewarding to see them kind of snuff out the offense, and it's because of that zone coverage, reading the game, passing on. But Jay, you're very quiet tonight. You're throwing
Colin's
the chat
on. How am I supposed to lead with that? You get Patrick Willis on last week. You get Colin Hay on this week. I'm more interested in listening to Colin. He's one of the most interesting people you'll ever meet at any meetup, because
I agree
100%
with
the
that.
Stories, it's incredible, Cole. I love you to bits, man.
Thanks, mate.
Well,
we must have a whiskey again sometime. Yes.
So Alex Simpson, we couldn't get Fred Warner, but we did bring Jay Peplow and Colin Hay. So I know when we were putting together this show, it was going to be like a call-in style show. So I messaged Jay firstly, and I asked Jay what did he want to talk about. So you had a think, you mulled it over, and you were going to talk about the community, and you were going to talk about your experience. So was there anything that you had prepared for me and Lee, Jay, that you wanted to kind of share before we kind of go down a Gowland rabbit hole, which we normally do on the show on Wednesday?
I am the most unprepared person on the planet for this. Finding the group was probably one of the best things that's happened to me in a lifetime, in nearly 44 years on the planet. I've been on the good side of the group. I've been on the admin side of the group. I've been in doldrums in the group. But every time the group is always there. I was saying earlier, it's like a family. It's more than that, though. It's like a brotherhood. It's something that you will never replace once you've got it. It sounds silly. It's trying to put it into words. The only way you can actually appreciate what the group does and can do for you is by joining it and come to a meetup. You know, your Facebook friends list will multiply by 10, 20 people, you know, and they will be friends for life. I say I'm very unprepared for it, but Colin's here. I didn't mean
to put you on the spot. It was just, we recorded the group therapy session on Monday, and that seems to have been well received. I think I've seen it die down a little bit on social media, though to be fairly, I have been off my phone today, which has kind of been a welcome distraction. But we wanted some positive vibes, but you just whenever you turn your camera off on a Wednesday, El Presidente, people think he's checking his phone. There's going to be an announcement, or he's changing his jersey. There's something going on.
So talking about Monday's show, have you actually rewatched the video back rather than just listen to the podcast?
No, I've just listened to the pod.
You know the issues that I accidentally caused halfway through or 20 minutes into the episode. I just wondered if you'd actually seen the way I cut that into the video.
No,
you
not
can,
yet.
you can see me looking all over. So the story about what happened. Paul said we had technical issues. Paul was being kind. I went and leaned on me on my keyboard and stopped recording. And you can see just before it happened, I'm looking all over, trying to figure out where this noise is coming from, because all I can hear is beep, 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 beep. And it's because my wrist was leaning on the keyboard and hadn't realised. And I thought it was coming from either Gareth or Paul's phone. So I'm looking around, moving my mouse, trying to have a look at their mic settings, thinking one of those have some background noise that I need to try and cut out. And then when I lifted my wrist off the keyboard, it must have been enough to do the key press to end the recording. And then all of a sudden it just popped up on everybody's screen. The recording has finished. So Paul was quite kind to us at that point. That preceded 5 minutes of trying to figure out how we can restart the recording. And then we eventually figured out you can't. We're going to have to start a brand new recording. So I had to do 6 different streams of audio, 2 different streams of video, and try and glue them together. So it was a little bit embarrassing. And tonight I've got my keyboard well out of the way. I don't want to do that again, because it took us until midnight on Monday night to get.
So for context,
edited.
everybody, when we first started doing these, I used to do it on an iPhone 8 because we didn't do the video. We just used to do it on Skype, and then we upgraded to YouTube.
Yeah.
And then Lee's been kind now, Jay. It used to be me tapping the desk, moving around. So Lee upgraded my setup. So I've got a microphone arm, I've got a microphone, but it's always me that normally makes a noise. So when you're on StreamYard like we are tonight, the top corner, it's got when you're recording. And as Lee said, me and Gareth were in mid-floor, and then it just stopped. And I thought, it's not me. It's definitely not me. And then I look at the top corner and see Gowland looking sheepish. So we kind of it lightened the mood a little bit, I think, because we just spent 25 minutes kind of starting to get into it. And, you know, as Alex said earlier in the chat, I can't find your message, Alex. He said, kudos to people who watched it back. When you do talk about the game, you do have to watch it back. And yes, Martin. So moving on, Colin has put there that Jamie's put Colin's a star. Can't wait for the Newcastle meet up and have a chance to have a good old chat. Jay is a gem. Love to both. So for those people tuning in, we are having a gathering in Newcastle, and it's going to be a meet rather than a watch party. And the reason we're trying to change the language, Jay, is the meets are what we used to do. We used to pick a city, pick a sports bar. We used to meet up, watch the game, and all the kind of best bits of the watch party were around the pre-meet, meeting up with friends, and we're looking forward to kind of what we called an old school meet up in Newcastle. So there'll be none of the razzmatazz, there'll be no VIPs, there'll be no Sky. However,
you two will be there, won't you?
Well, kind of.
We certainly
Newcastle.
I'm going.
We certainly
There's
will.
3 VIPs straight away.
Martin Hughes will not be joining us because he will be at the game in Santa Clara. So we expect lots of photos, Martin. We expect lots of pictures with the flag. But we're just saying, Jay, that for some people who maybe are on the fence, if you're unsure, as you said, Colin, you turned up at Leeds and you were instantly surrounded by friends. And that's what we want to create. And it's great to see the group growing from strength to strength. If anyone's worried in the run-up, do send me or Lee a message, or even Jay or Colin if you don't want to reach out to me or Lee. And I'm sure
I was going to say that the one thing I'm really looking forward to Newcastle is that, not that I've got anything about the London watch parties, they've been absolutely brilliant, but the thing I'm looking forward to is that there is just so many people at the London watch parties, you can't catch up with everyone. So with the Newcastle one, the core members that are going to be there, it'll be nice to just chat up, have a good chat with them and catch up with them, because the chances are, I think I can probably name 6 or 7 people that I know were at the London meetup. I couldn't find them, and I didn't get a chance to chat with them.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, I don't know if he's coming to Newcastle. I really missed Oliver as well at London. So,
well, Oliver Stretfield is
coming. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was going to say the same thing, Colin. The good thing about the meetup is because you don't have 500 there. I mean, I think the most we've had at a 49, actually the most we had at 49th for UK meetup was 130. But bearing in mind that should have been a watch party, but was the one that was cancelled due to the Queen dying. But other than that, it's been about 50, 60 people, we've had.
Yeah.
And even though that seems a lot, it's a manageable amount to be able to sit
Yeah.
down and pretty much talk to everybody at least once during the night.
Yeah.
And have a decent conversation. So I do know there's a lot of there's quite a few newbies going to Newcastle, so that would be good. It'll be like a soft introduction to what a meetup, what a watch party is. And to be honest, I think for those who are nervous, it's probably better coming to the meetup at Newcastle, because then you do develop those relationships with people, because you'll get a chance to speak to them.
So we've created the.
And do fight.
Maybe I'll have to bring the Super Bowl rings in.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
Again, Colin, that was another thing. Like, you know, we were all. Jay's got his background there, but me, Lee, yourself, we've got all our trinkets behind us, and there's a story behind each part of my collection, and your story behind the Super Bowl rings. So that was going to be one of my questions tonight. So it's a nice segue. So you turned up in Leeds with this lovely wooden box with the Super Bowl rings in. So I'm going to hand over to you to explain to the viewers at home just what this is and why it was so special.
I mean, it was bizarre because my wife was looking for an anniversary present, and the last thing I expected was something to do with the 49ers, because she's not got any interest in American football. But yeah, totally bizarrely, my wife still don't know where she got them. I still don't know how much she paid, but she had this present, which is basically all 5 Super Bowl rings. And it's a lovely set. And yeah, the only person I know who can actually get all of them on his hand is Colin.
And I have photographic evidence of that. But it was just, you know, you tended your first watch party and you brought that along to show people. And it's things like that we like. I was just saying there, we were in Manchester today, me and Tracy. FC Twente from Holland are over playing Manchester United. We're in the Hard Rock Cafe, and I could see the fans looking at me thinking, he's wearing a red jersey, but that's not Manchester United. And as we were leaving, one of the guys said, American, English? And I said, yep, English. He said, Atlanta Falcons. He said, is that the 49ers? And straight away, me and this guy are talking in a bar in Manchester about American football. And as we left, Tracy's like, there's only you that can happen to. I was like, it isn't only me. It's what happens in the UK.
Yeah.
So...
No, I mean, to be honest, I still can't believe this. Unfortunately, he leaves at the end of the week. My boss at my job, I do just 2 days a week now. He has been brilliant to me. He asked me at the start of the season for every single 49ers game when we're playing. Also, if there was potential of me going away to meet-ups. So he said that I'll make sure that I don't put you on a shift rota that whenever that's going to happen. And yet he's a Seattle Seahawks fan.
Yeah, I mean,
you think he'd make me work them all, wouldn't you? Really?
My
We've got nothing to shout about at the moment, Cole.
Yeah, my boss was.
Well, I don't know the lead of the division.
Yeah, I'm going to say we're bottom of the division, Jay.
Yeah.
But my boss was the same, Colin. Yesterday, my boss was booking a training course in November, and I was like, hang on a second. And she was like, you're checking the fixtures, aren't you? I was like, damn right, I'm checking the fixtures. If there's a clash, it isn't happening. But we've got a few comments here. Yep, pre-meet up. So an advantage of Newcastle. I think me and you get into Newcastle about 2 p.m. on the Sunday, Lee. So I can check in. I think it's about 2, you know, when I check the train times. But anyway, we're going to be in Newcastle mid-afternoon. The plan is once everyone's checked in at the hotels at 3 o'clock, we're going to put the word out, get some food, and there will be a pre-meet, Barry, as you said, and then the plan is to head to the bar for 6 p.m. So I've been communicating with the Chiefs UK fan group. As I said on the pod, they have confirmed, Lee, that the game will be on. If it's not the Sky game, they'll be able to stream the game. The game will be open. The bar will be open until the game finishes, but equally they asked, what time did we want to be in the bar? And I've said 6 o'clock, because I want to be there for NFL Sunday starting. You know, stick Red Zone on, 6 till 9, as you said, Colin. People can come to the bar, meet up, introduce people, and then when the game starts at 9:25, we'll all be ready, and we'll be in red and gold, and ready to show those Chiefs fans, as Barry said, the takeover is on.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope it was a good result there.
Hopefully, as Mark said there. Colin, you're going to need space for another ring in that box.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Wants to see.
Yeah, I thought I was going to do that back in February, but there you go.
I know.
Yeah, didn't we all? Didn't we all?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's been some news since we recorded on Monday. Literally, again, it happens every time to us. Half an hour after we'd finished recording, the news broke that Yvonne Hargrave is out for the season, torn tricep. How do you think that's going to impact the team? Do you think he's going to be a miss?
I think that's going to be a real big difference to the defensive line, because I know he doesn't always necessarily have the stats, but he is dominant on that line, and I think we are really, really going to miss him. And I'm really not sure who can step up, to be honest.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I think we have polar opposite views.
Right. Okay.
So I've been really, really disappointed in Hargrave. He's shown flashes of why we spent so much in free agency to get him. But the first thought that went through my mind when I found out the news about Hargrave being off for the season is maybe that's a blessing in disguise, because I think that means Colin's going to get a lot more reps, because he wasn't getting every rep.
Yeah.
While Hargrave was playing, and I think Collins has proven so far to be a better free agent pickup. I might be wrong; it might come back to bite us, but I am excited about that, because I think that could help us in both the run game and the pass rush. So
I think it's going to be a similar situation to what's happening with Jordan Mason at the moment, with CMC being out.
Yeah.
You take that player away for whatever reason, and then somebody steps up, and it gives them the opportunity to step up massively in the same way that Jordan Mason has done. It's going to be a little bit controversial, maybe. When we were watching the game the other evening, I was halfway through sending Paul a message regarding Trent Williams. And then I deleted it because I didn't know where to go with it. But I'll mention it now, that with Trent Williams, we seem very reliant on him, like extremely reliant. That as soon as we saw him limp off the field, there was doom and gloom everywhere. And it's like, thankfully he came back. It was only a cramp. He had a quick IV and he was good. But we need to get deeper in certain positions.
Yeah.
Where we don't have to be so reliant on one, because there are players out there that we can get. There are players out there that can improve, but they need that opportunity. And if we're going to do anything like that, it's at the start of the season. I think we want it to happen. We're all amazed and over the moon with the way Jordan Mason's playing at the moment, but still we all want CMC back. With Hargreaves being out, it is going to give Collins the opportunity to step up, improve, and get better as the season goes on. So when Hargreaves does return fit next season, we're hoping to be a little bit deeper in that position. So if one does go out, it's not.
See, I'm on the same page as Colin. So Dan has joined in here late, and he's put that he thinks that Hargrave's big plays have blinded people to his overall performance. But when you go back and watch the game tape, sometimes the stats aren't there. And I think Hargrave's been better this year. I think the pairing of Collins, as you've said, I think Jordan Elliott has been better in there. I think people look at what Hargrave did at Philadelphia, and their defense was set up a little bit different. Their tackles beside Hargrave were bigger bodied. They were there to stop the run. But I think you might see Kevin Givens could be in line for some more snaps because he seems to know the scheme. I think Jordan Elliott could get some more. It is a big loss. I think Hargrave, when I've watched it back for me, Lee, I think he looked better on the tape. And obviously I was looking out for him because we've all seen that clip where he looks like he's half-arsing it. But then to find out that his tricep was probably hanging off and he was in pain. But the injury, go on.
So I was going to say, the interesting thing is, the injury didn't happen on the last play, and I'm sure that was pretty much the last play where he just kind of stood up and he was playing patty cake with whoever it was on the Rams.
Oh, it looks horrific. It does look horrific. But there's that one where, I think, was it Kittle last year, where Kittle was having a bit of banter with the lad and the ball's dropped behind him and he could have picked the ball up, but to Kittle, he'd done his block and he was too engaged in the trash talk. And maybe Hargrave, maybe he was just ghastly. Who knows? And it's not a good look. I agree with you.
What I was going to say is that it's interesting that we're still on the field at that point, because apparently the injury happened earlier on in the game. Not earlier on than what we'd seen. So the fact that he was still on there, you've got to ask the question why. Surely he knew he was incapable of actually blocking or getting through to the quarterback, but he stayed on the field. Now, I agree that this season he has looked better than last season. Yeah, completely agree with that. Does he look like what we expected him to look like? I still can't see it. And I think you're right. I think Jordan Elliott and Malik Collins will get the vast majority of the reps that is going to be left over from Hargrave being injured. Not so sure about Kevin Givens. I mean, last season I had him in my final 53 when we did the roster breakdown. This season that didn't. Last season everybody was quite surprised I had him in the 53, and he was. But this season I just thought we had better players than Kevin Givens, because he is a liability in the run.
Yeah, I just think maybe it's that rotation piece, because like you said, I think the reason Hargrave stayed in is I don't think Collins has been great in the run. I think the Rams were building a bit more pressure with running the ball. I may be wrong. And I think, like you said... Oh, echo there. Don't know if that was my headphones or not. Anyway.
Check your wrist, Lee.
Yeah.
No, my wrist is fine. Don't know where that was coming from. Are you okay, Paul?
Yeah, it's not my end.
Echo's gone. So. Don't know where it's at. So I've got another question. So obviously we've had 3 pivotal injuries on offense. Debo, CMC and Kittle. Which one of those injuries do you think has had the biggest impact?
I think for me it's Debo. I mean, obviously CMC is a great player, but Jordan Mason has done a brilliant job.
Yeah.
I mean, I won't go on about Sunday's game, but I can't believe we stopped running the ball so much in the second half. But no, to me, we could live with Jordan Mason if CMC doesn't come back. But I think Debo, because I sat out all training camp, that is so showing compared to how he was last year. So losing Debo, I think, is huge at the moment. But now Jawan's had such a brilliant game. Maybe that's not as bad as it could have been. But I do feel that Brock's forcing things a little bit more than I believe he would otherwise.
Yeah, I agree with that. How about you, Jay?
I would go Kittle, to be honest, just because of the diversity that he gives and the leadership as well. Debo's incredible. We all know this, but he's not as much of a character as what Kittle is. And I think Kittle can bring that boost that a team needs if it goes behind or if they're struggling or something like that. I mentioned to Paul with regards to Ayuk that he doesn't seem to be targeting. Purdy doesn't seem to be targeting Ayuk as much as he did last year, and I'm wondering if he's got a doubt in his mind or he hasn't got that connection with him yet because he's been so absent. CMC obviously is a massive hole for us. Shanahan's been quite open in saying that at the start of the season the offense runs through CMC. But Mason I wouldn't say he's replaced him, but he's certainly coming up to match a standard. Debo, Jennings is there for him. But for me, Kittle is more than one puzzle piece for the team.
How about you, Paul? The 3 of them.
See, Colin mentioned Debo, and I do think he adds that extra dynamic with the wide back role, but I think CMC adds more overall to the offense, because I think when he's on the field and he's fully fit, I think the defensive coordinator on either side has to game plan a lot more for CMC. It just seems to be that Swiss Army knife that Kyle Shanahan needs. I mean, I love all 3 equally, but I would list it as CMC, Debo, then I would say Kittle. But before you answer, Lee, we have reached that time in the show where we need to tell everybody about our awesome partners. Power Brand Systems empowers creators and businesses to build their brand, attract an audience, and grow through effective systems and software solutions.
Ready to generate more leads from your website, Google, and your social channels without having to spend money on ads? Our platform provides you with an easy-to-use communication stream that sucks in free leads from your website, Google, Facebook, and Instagram, enabling you to reply and convert them into customers from your computer or from our mobile app. We'll even turn your inbound calls into text message conversations, so you'll never miss another lead again. Once you've converted a satisfied customer, you can shoot them a Google review request with a click of a button, which will explode your positive reviews and increase your position in search engines. The system will also pull new reviews from Google and Facebook right into your conversation stream, where you can read and reply. Jumpstart your business by getting started today.
Like a well-oiled machine, Lee. So Bebop likes my answer. We're joined by Aaron, 49ers First Takes. Much appreciated. And before Lee answers, Leanne says she's finally made it. She will re-watch the start of the show. But she says good evening. So who, to answer your own question, Lee, are you going to say?
So I agree with Colin for pretty much the same reason as well. So I think Debo's been the biggest miss. The reason for that is I think Jordan Mason has filled in admirably in the run game for CMC. And I think had we had Debo would be able to fill in from the other role that CMC does, because to be honest, the pair of them are very interchangeable. As a wide back, he does a lot of receiving himself, and I think missing Debo, we now don't have that check down for Brock, that he's confident to get the ball out to him, which means our yards after the catch has plummeted. Season after season, we've always been the number one team, yards after catch. And I think the stat I saw either yesterday or the day before, we are fifth off last for yards after catch. And that's huge, because that has been our game for the last 2-3 seasons. Joan Jennings as a receiver, yes, that's great, but we don't seem to be using him as we use Debo, to a quick pass out to the flat and then let him run past players. And I wouldn't care. When he came out of Texas, he was a yak guy. He was a yards after the catch guy. And we don't seem to be using him in the same way as what he was used in college. That's not to say it's the wrong thing to do, because obviously we saw what he was capable of on Sunday night against the Rams. So I think as far as the wide receivers are concerned, we covered from that aspect. But I think having both CMC and Debo missing, that's had a major effect on Purdy. And again, I'm not saying it's... obviously, it is a bad effect. It's a negative effect. But when he goes out and plays like he did on Sunday, I thought he was excellent. But it's good for him to have somebody that he trusts, where he can check down and just get a pass straight out to the flat, knowing fine well that once it gets there, they're going to get yards after the catch, and they're more likely going to get anywhere between 5 and 10 yards. And we don't have that at the moment. So I think that's why we're kind of struggling on third down. That and sloppy play, poor execution. But yeah, I think Debo has been the biggest miss, purely because Jordan Mason's been so good.
Mark has put there that all three are extremely versatile players.
Yeah.
He imagines each being out will restrict play calling, but he agrees Debo. But Lee, you lie. You said on the pod that you were disappointed with Joanne Jennings. So for those people who haven't listened to the pod, that is true. Paul Hope is not lying.
Yeah.
Lee Gowland said he was disappointed with Joanne Jennings. Explain yourself.
So I made a bold prediction on Friday night, and I was so close to getting this bold prediction right. So I'd said Joanne Jennings was going to have a game for the decades. He was game for the ages. He was going to get 100 plus yards and 2+ touchdowns, and he was going to throw a touchdown pass. And that's why I was disappointed in him. He didn't throw a touchdown pass.
Yeah, so that was the context. Now, Aaron has put there that with Brock playing so well, without Kittle, without Debo, without CMC, it only helps him grow and makes him even more dangerous, which we've said. Now, Colin, Jay, I'm going to turn the spotlight over to you two. I'm going to go to Colin first. Do you have any questions that you want to ask either me or Lee Gowland? Because we're trying to keep the show to about an hour. We're not strict with that. It's 54 minutes in. But I just wondered if you had a question for either of us. Or
I would. I do have a question, because I don't think you've ever told us, or if you have, maybe it was in the days before I joined, but I'd like to know how you both became 49ers fans.
You
Do
go
you want
first,
to go
Lee.
first, Paul? Oh, go on. I'll
You can go
Paul.
first. Go on, buddy.
So, luckily enough, Colin, you're of a similar age to me, so you'll remember this program. But there used to be a program on ITV back in the 70s and 80s called World of Sport.
Oh yeah, Dickie Davis.
This guy with, Dickie Davis. So I was just about to say this guy with an incredible perm and unbelievable magnum moustache used to present the show. And on that show, they used to have like a mini show within a show. This mini show went on to be Trans World Sport, which you probably know was shown on a Saturday morning on Channel 4 when Channel 4 started in '82. So on World of Sport, they showed I think it was a 5-minute slot for Trans World Sport, and within those 5 minutes, there was basically a 20-second clip of the 49ers playing against the Dallas Cowboys. And the only reason I think they showed that particular game was because the program Dallas was really popular over in the UK. So they showed the Cowboys and the 49ers. I saw the 49ers in these white jerseys, red stripes or red hoops, and gold helmets. And at the time, I was a young lad, and I actually thought the helmets were made of real gold. So I just thought that was really cool. And obviously, with them wearing red and white, same as Sunderland, straight away I just took this. I took this liking to them, to this sport that I'd never seen before, but completely fascinated me about what was happening. So that's when I kind of started. That's when I knew I'd be a 49ers fan. But obviously it wasn't until '82 when we could actually watch any highlights when Channel 4 started. And even then, you had to wait a week before you could watch the previous Sunday's highlight show. Yeah. And it was a 1-hour show, and it showed every single game, highlights from every single game. So you didn't really get to see the team much. So between 79 and 82, I listened to the games on Armed Forces Radio.
Oh, yeah. I used to do that too.
Yeah, and I actually think it helped a lot for when Channel 4 came in and started being televised, because listening to what the commentators are saying, they actually break it down a lot more than what they do on the TV. They describe it a lot more, because you have to on radio, otherwise you won't have a clue what's going on. And I think that helped us a lot, because when it did eventually come on TV, as soon as I saw something, I knew what was happening because of what I'd heard on Armed Forces Radio. So, I mean, unfortunately, I missed Super Bowl 16. Super Bowl 17 was the very first Super Bowl shown live in the UK. I have obviously since seen Super Bowl 16, and the first Super Bowl that I actually got to watch live, 49er Super Bowl, was Super Bowl 19.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, I was hooked anywhere from the early 80s. Going through school, I think there was only me and maybe 2 other people that actually were into NFL. Luckily enough, at the time, well before the internet, you used to be able to get this like fortnightly magazine where you built up this ring binder, and one of the sports in there was American football. It was NFL, and then they did an NFL specific one as well, so I went through all the teams, so I collected all of those. And when I first got my first jersey, it wasn't a 49ers jersey. So I'd asked for a 49ers jersey for Christmas. My parents couldn't find one anywhere. So this will have been 81 or 82 I got this jersey. And it was a New England Patriots jersey. But it wasn't really a New England Patriots jersey either. It was just in the style of an NFL jersey with Patriots written across the top. So it wasn't even a proper jersey. The first real jersey I had was Ronnie Lott. And again, I must have been 13, 14-year-old, 85, 86, 87. It was 87 I got it. So 14-year-old. Yeah, 14-year-old. So it was in like a medium boy's size. And I wore it pretty much every day until it fell off my back. And that is the only jersey, and Ronnie Lott was my favourite player, by the way. And that's the only jersey I haven't felt as though I could replace. So I've got Legends jerseys left, right and centre.
Yeah.
And I think I'm waiting until something special happens for us to buy another Ronnie Lott jersey, because the first one had so many memories. Honestly, this is going to sound ridiculous. It almost feels as though I'm cheating on my Ronnie Lott jersey from the 80s. So I can't bring myself to buy another one, unless it's something. It needs to be something special. But yeah, I mean that's my journey. I mean during the 90s. So I was born 73, so I turned 18, 1991, and as you can imagine, from 18 to probably 25, 30, was a drunken blur. So I was taking in the games, but only 49er games. If the 49ers weren't on TV, I wasn't bothering watching it. So that kind of decade for me was a lost decade as far as the NFL is concerned. The only ones I was interested in were the 49ers. And then the noughties came. I got married in 99. We had our first child in 2001. And that meant I spent a lot of time up during the night. So that's when I kind of really got back into watching my NFL, the early 2000s. So, and that's when I would pretty much watch every single game that was on TV. And then when Game Pass came out, that was just unbelievable. I'd be watching every game in 40 from every game during the week before the next one. And that kind of lasted up until probably 2015, actually. So 2015, my time kind of got really tight. And that's because I was spending so much time administrating the group. I know somebody asked once upon a time ago, how long do I spend a week doing like the administration and moderation? And between 2015 and probably 2020, 2021, I was easily spending anywhere between 18 and 22 hours a week sorting stuff out in the group. And then obviously the admin team has expanded dramatically since then. And a lot of that has been taken off me now, so I don't need to worry about that as much. But I'm still touching double figures, easy a week. But that's my journey. I will always be a 49ers fan.
Well, you mentioned 1987. That was when I first went to Candlestick. So
yeah,
I see. I went out there for 5 weeks holiday and see 3 games at Candlestick Park.
So my first trip out there wasn't until 2012. So growing up during the 80s, my dad was a miner, so he was out on strike, and miners weren't particularly well paid anyway. My mother worked in a local factory, which wasn't a particularly well paid job. So we were a low income family. We never went without anything though. My parents were great with that. Even during the miners' strike, you would never know that my dad was on strike because they basically give up everything for themselves to buy Christmas presents for me and my 2 brothers. And then during the 90s, I didn't particularly have a well-paid job. In fact, during the noughties, I didn't either. It wasn't until 2013 when I started contracting as a freelancer, IT consultant, that I suddenly had this excess of money. And I'd always said to my wife, when I turned 40, which was 2013, I will definitely go to San Francisco. Obviously, I turned 40 2013, the last season at Candlestick Park, and I was thinking, should I do it, should I not? The year before, my dad had died from cancer, lung cancer, and I spent the last week with him in hospital, looking after him. And one of the things he'd said is, I've done everything in my life that I wanted to do. I've got no regrets. And it was on the anniversary of his death, so it was the 23rd of October 2013, the first anniversary. I was feeling a little bit low, and I just remembered what my dad said, and I thought, you know what, it's the last season at Candlestick Park, I have to go out there. So I went ahead and I went and booked this trip. Didn't bother to tell my wife. I booked this trip and I flew out on the Friday morning and flew back on the Monday. It was literally a 2-day trip. Out to Candlestick, just so I could just see it that once, because that's all I'd ever known. I'd only ever known them play at Candlestick Park, and I just had to be there to experience again. And it was a wonderful experience, and that's where I met David Ellicott, who is now my what my wife would call my 49ers wife. So me and David normally
You've got a
share
lot
rooms.
of those, Lee.
I do now. I do. So yeah, now I go out to San Francisco with David pretty much all the time. The first time, in fact, last year was the first 2 times since 2014 that I went out to San Francisco without David, and one of them being my 50th birthday, because I was basically, again, this was a short trip. I flew out on the Wednesday and I was flying back home on the Saturday morning, so it was literally 2 days, and I only wanted to do it because it was my 50th birthday, and then the gold mine game as well, which David couldn't make because David's dad had died in the summer of last year, and they were actually scattering his ashes 2 days after that game, so he wouldn't have been able to get back in time to do that. So obviously I understood that. But yeah, I mean, this group, my fandom as a 49er has led to many great friends, many close friends, many great events. Obviously, the draft in Vegas in 22, I'll never ever forget that. It still feels like a dream that happened. Great times with Najee, and just to meet Najee, that was the first time I met Najee in the flesh. And it was so surreal because I'd spent the last 3-4 years speaking to him on a weekly basis on the podcasts. When I saw him walking up to me, it didn't actually occur to me this was the first time I was meeting him. It just felt like he was a friend I'd known for years and years and years. And it wasn't until Najee said, come give us a hug. This is the first time we've ever met. And then the penny dropped. And you get a lot of that now because there's a lot of people I speak to in the group who I only ever meet once I get to a meetup. And it's as soon as you click and think, oh yeah, that's such and such. So go over, give him a big hug, just like Najee would. And it's great. It's great. So I thought that might be a long one. So we'll hand it over to Paul now because I've talked for a while now. Just bored you all to tears.
No, not at all.
Not at all. No. I mean, I know you were telling Frank a little bit about the background with your dad. And I remember when we tried to get the website up and running and you put your blog on there. And as much as I've spent a lot of time talking to you, it was emotional for me to read that. But it's interesting you mentioned people asking about times because Rob Molinar and his wife asked me in London, how long do we spend doing the group and the pods? And I was thinking, nobody's really asked me that before. Now, if you ask Tracy, I know what her answer would be because she's like, how many shows a week? Last night, we were sat watching the TV and I'm watching highlights of a game from the weekend. And she's like, that's not even the 49ers. And like you said, Colin, I've mentioned it a lot on this show. I don't do other sports. I do the NFL. And like Lee, my journey was kind of Game Pass. And once you've invested that kind of money, especially as a single parent at the time when I first got Game Pass, I wanted to get my money's worth. So I was watching all the games. And then we started doing the podcasts, and then I started to kind of like put a bit more time in. But you asked the question about where did my journey begin. So over my shoulder, you'll see Colin Kaepernick. So he is a big reason of why I'm a 49ers fan. So I'll give you the short version, Colin, because I struggle to follow Lee sometimes because his stories are epic. But the short version is I've changed jobs. I work for a local authority. And I changed jobs. And normally in England, you go into a new workplace and they ask you, which football team do you support? And when I say these days, the San Francisco 49ers, I get a look of horror from the English football supporting. But the roles were reversed because back then, I wasn't really into the NFL, but I wasn't really in love with English football. And one of my colleagues was a Bears fan. And we had a dress down Friday, and I rocked into the office and he had this awesome old school Bears jersey on. And he was talking to me about this wonderful game of American football. And funnily enough, it was the Monday night we were due to play the Bears when Colin Kaepernick started for the first time. Now, I didn't know, Colin, that this game would start at 1 a.m. So on the Friday, he was like, right, you've got to watch this game on Monday night. I'm off on Monday and I'm off on Tuesday morning. Now, I didn't know why I was off on Tuesday morning. Didn't make sense at the time. And I remember getting home on Monday night and thinking, oh my God, when does this game start? It was like 1 a.m. And I was instantly hooked. And I remember walking to work the next day. And in Darlington, there's a shopping centre called the Corn Mill. And there's a JD Sports. And they had a bargain bucket basement outside. And there was a load of NFL hats in. And the hats were £5 a pop. Now, I wish I could spend £5 a pop on the hats I've got now. Because I know Tracy knows they cost a lot more than £5. But there was a Niners hat there, Colin. So £5 English pounds. Niners hat on, and I walked into the office, and he came in at dinner time, and he was like, "You've made your choice." And I was like, "How can I not choose that team?" And like Lee said, I've just fully invested. My fandom of kind of NFL groups, there was a Facebook group called the NFL Brit Union. So I used to join that, and on a Sunday they'd have a game day thread, but it was all different teams. And I think about 2017, I got put on to the 49er Faithful UK group, and then you meet people like Jay, people like yourself that you just talk to. But Lee mentioned Nadji, 2022, the Leeds meetup that you attended. That was the first time that I'd met Nadji in person.
Right.
And like Lee said, we've been speaking for years doing the podcasts. And I remember Nadji walking up to me in the box in Leeds, and it's similar to Lee. He was like, "Come here then." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Bear hug." And I'm like, "Wow, we've never met in person." And it just seems so surreal to fast forward. But that's where my journey began. So there you go.
Yeah.
Rick, he's enjoying the show. He likes the gear that we're repping. I'm not sure if Rick is a 49ers fan, but he has put a lot of comments in the chat, which I am seeing, Rick, but obviously I'm trying not to interrupt the flow of the show. So, Jay, you've been very quiet. Colin has asked his questions. Do you have any questions for either me?
I haven't got a question as such. I've been sat here listening to everybody's stories and backgrounds and stuff. And I thought I'd take an opportunity to say thank you to Lee and Paul for making this one of the greatest fan pages, fan groups, or whatever. People don't realize how much time goes into all of this. I have no idea. I spent a short time as admin a couple of years back, and you're busy, you're doing stuff, but the amount of stuff that these two guys at the top do for this group is unreal. The scope and the range, what's the word? The level of exposure that this group has got, thanks to Lee and Paul, is unreal. So I haven't got a question. I've just got a lot of thanks to give you guys and the other guys behind the scenes and the other group members. Thank you. Genuinely, thank you from the bottom of my heart. You have made a middle-aged man very happy over the last 5 years. And I look forward to another 10, 15, 20 years to go.
Yeah, I'd second everything that Jay said there. You guys are incredible. Everything you've done.
Rushing.
Yeah. but no, you are amazing. Done a fantastic job.
Cheers, fellas. That does mean a lot. It does mean a lot. These times, all those times in the earlier years that I did wonder whether or not it was all worthwhile doing. It kind of, when I look back at how much time I do spend on this, I do think it's definitely worthwhile. It's definitely worthwhile. Because I mean, even now, when I spend, I probably spend about 10 hours a week on the podcasts, the live shows, the editing and stuff like that. And then probably 5 hours now a week on the group, actually doing the administration, liaising with the 49ers. Actually, that's just reminded us I need to get the lessons learned created and sent out. Doing stuff like that kind of makes the next event, hopefully makes the next event better. Obviously, they don't listen to all the lessons learned, which is a source of frustration for me, especially when it comes back to bite us a little bit. Luckily enough, it didn't this year because, again, the work that all the admin team done in the lead up to the tickets going on sale and the spare tickets that were flying about. But yeah, it does. It means a lot. It means a lot to hear that, and hopefully this group will go from strength to strength, whether or not I'm part of it or not. I'll always be part of the group, but I keep on telling the rest of the admin team there's going to be a day that comes when I turn around and say somebody else can take over and they can do it.
Watch everybody run.
To be honest, yeah,
for a while, I don't
when Lee said, "Did you want to be vice president?" the only question was, "You ain't going anywhere," because he makes it easy. This man, he's very humble. He plays it down. I'm
You
still
both do.
grateful.
You both
Still
play it
grateful,
down
Jay, that
massively.
I still remember when Lee was like, "You active on Twitter, aren't you, Paul?" I was like, "Yeah, just a bit, Lee." And he was like, "Do you fancy running the group account?" So I was like, "Yeah, what's the worst that can happen?" Then he handed over those passwords, but he kept the Instagram password for me for ages, and that was a big bugbearer of mine because I wanted the Instagram account as well. But honestly, the community makes it easy. And to be fair, Lee, today was probably the first day that from about 7 o'clock this morning, I sent you a message to say, me and Tracy going to Manchester. My phone is getting switched off because I'm driving down. I promised Tracy the day. And I kind of felt like a bit of a worried parent. Like, I got my phone back at 7 o'clock tonight and I switched it on and I was like, check the group, check Twitter, check the emails. And I was like, oh, Lee's created the link for the show. Oh, the guests are sorted. And it is kind of nice that you've said that there is other people who have stepped up behind the scenes. The admin team is growing from strength to strength. The London watch party, the spare ticket fiasco, so we will share with people. We were worried that not everybody would get in. So the reason the admin team was asking for the spare ticket, I think me and Lee had about 100 tickets on our phones because we were trying to kind of make sure that everybody would get in. And again, on the night, as much as there's frustrations with the Niners kind of not sometimes listening to us, the staff on the ground, so like they fully trusted us at the London watch party. We literally were part of the team that night. And it ran so smooth because of the work everybody put in. Special shout out to Neil Graham, who's not an admin member, but was Frank Gore's personal bodyguard for the night, along with Brett Sinclair. Yes, Mr. International Superstar, I've got your messages. I'll give you your mention. But fellas, this show has been fantastic. Now, Mark has a comment there, Lee, that might mean more to you than me. As long as we don't get a bar with dynamic pricing.
Yeah. So obviously, I noticed it. Mark noticed it. I'm glad Mark brought it up with me, and I think somebody else noticed. Oh, I think it was Jay. Jay noticed it as well.
Yeah.
They're either overcharging or taking too many payments from people. When I checked my credit card bill, bearing in mind on Sunday when we were in, I think I only bought 2 drinks because everybody kept on buying us drinks all night. Yet I had about 6 or 7 payments taken from my card, and some of the prices kept on fluctuating, shall we say. So that has been reported back to the 49ers to say, look, you need to have a look at this. I'm not a paranoid person, so I'm going to assume there's something wrong with the payment system. It's a big brand bar that it is. I don't think we can all put it down to one person, but yes, there's definitely something not quite right about the charging of drinks at the bar.
Now, Colin, you mentioned something earlier, and I just wanted to finish off. We get asked a lot of questions by our friends across the pond about the NFL growing in the UK. Now, the box always holds a special place in my heart because the way they looked after us in Leeds. So strolling around Manchester today, I saw a box bar, and I thought, Tracy Lee, that looks amazing for a watch party. And as I kind of got closer to kind of take a little look, they actually had an advert for NFL Sundays. And that caught my eye because this is a sports bar, Champions League, Premier League, whatever else. But right in the middle, they're advertising NFL Sundays. I live in Middlesbrough, the Sporting Lodge. They're advertising NFL Sundays. And what I'm interested to see when we get up to Newcastle for the October watch party, or the meet, as Gareth has said, is how many non-Chiefs fans and non-49ers fans will be there. Because it is open to people to walk in. I know there's a couple of, I think we've got a Cowboys fan joining us. There's a Lions fan joining us. But it is interesting to see the growth in the UK. I mean, we've got a long way to go. I don't think you're going to walk into any bar in England and get the NFL on. But I think it's positive steps, Lee. And Martin, yeah, that's the one in Deansgate. It definitely looked a viable option for a meet-up or a watch party. Because I've had a few people mention Manchester. I've had a few people mention Brighton. Lee would like one in Sunderland. Jay would like one where he lives.
Lee would definitely not like one in Sunderland.
No, I heard you say...
I may be a Sunderland fan, but I know where to draw the line.
Well, you'd have one closer to home, because I've heard a few people mention here at the London watch party, and you're like, well,
Durham,
we'd all
actually
like them closer. Durham would be a shout, yeah.
Yeah, so Durham's got a pub called The Library, which is quite good for sport events. They've got a huge screen down in the back room where they've got a couple of pool tables as well. So, I mean, that could be an option.
Well, we've been going for an hour and 20, fellas. It is a school night. I have work tomorrow. I have other duties to do, which I'll be
You
pointing
don't
out.
want to go for the 1:30 like Brock Purdy.
Well, any final thoughts before we finish off? Because I'm not quite ready. Anything you want to add, Lee, before we finish off? Is there any final thoughts?
Just that's been great to listen about your journey as a 49er fan and how you found the group. It's always good to hear that, and it's good for everybody else to hear it because it might resonate with somebody else and say, oh, actually, I found the group just the same way as you did. So it's always interesting to hear that.
I'll go over to you, Jay. Any final thoughts before we let these good people get on with their Wednesday evenings?
Anybody in doubt about going to a meetup, don't worry. Go. I promise you it'll be one of the greatest things you'll ever do. I have no doubts you will come away a different person for all the right reasons. Go. Yeah. And if my other half is still watching, can we sort it out so I can go to Newcastle?
Colin, over you, buddy.
So that was the famous 2015 meet, that one, Ian. So that was July the 4th, actually, Independence Day. 2015. That was at the Printworks at Manchester. Shooters Bar, and there was somewhere else that we went, the Bee Killer, I think. Or Shooters Bar might be the Bee Killer. But we went to two different bars, I recall that. And I don't know if you remember, Ian, but that was the one where I had to travel back home that day because I had to do the Great North 10K the morning after. So I couldn't drink much.
To, Lee.
Well, I didn't have to. I actually ran a PB, to be honest. I ran a PB. I was quite happy with that.
That was getting to the porta potty.
Yeah.
I know a rabbit hole. Any final thoughts from you, Colin, before I do?
Yeah, I mean, again, what Jay has said, that the meetups are fantastic. If you are thinking, oh, shouldn't I? Definitely go, because you will definitely not regret it. I mean, my biggest regret is that it took me from 2019, as Lee said, was when I joined, to 2022 to finally go. And I just wish I'd made that decision earlier, because it's just an awesome experience. And, well, as I've said, I've definitely got friends for life. And to be honest, meeting you guys for Sunday lunch that turned into nearly 3.5 hours, I believe we made Sunday lunch last, and it wasn't all about football. My wife was shocked at that, but she said that she absolutely loved meeting your respective partners, and she wouldn't hesitate, and she's actually thinking of not a big watch party, but she's actually thinking she might come along, especially if we've got something in Leeds, because she's heard how good the shopping is in Leeds.
That's always a good way to sell it, Colin. So
from a selfish point of view, I'm kind of hoping we do have another meetup in Leeds. Yeah. Because I've got...
I know where he's going with
it. You've still got drinks tokens.
Yeah, I've still got drinks tokens. So I'm having a party in the head of Steam.
Yeah, head of Steam that have looked after us, to be fair. Yeah. But all I was going to finish off with, chaps, is the awesome foursome. I'm not sure if Najee's definitely back or not, but we will be recording the Patriots preview show tomorrow. So do keep your notifications switched on for that. Please do drop us a like, subscribe, all that good stuff on YouTube. It definitely helps. If you're unsure where to get your content, 49er Faithful UK. I will also be digging the cleats out on Saturday. I'm playing in an over 40s tournament in Sheffield. So if you want to giggle, if you want to see me do my best Joanne Jennings and not Ronnie Bell impression, do come along. It would be good. But fellas, it has been an absolute blast as always. Jay, thank you for coming on. Mr. Positivity himself. Colin, we will definitely get you back on, because I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of your story. But tonight... Again, an hour and 25, Lee, and we could probably talk for another hour and 25. Yeah. Everybody who's at home, I appreciate. Martin is watching the Liverpool game and our show at the same time. So who said fellas can't multitask? But on that note, Lee, all that is left for me to say is until next time, go Niners.
Go Niners.
Bang,
Go Niners.
We love the San Francisco 49ers deep in the heart. Like Joe Montana in the corner, deep Clark. Garrison Hurst.